we did all the research. We did all the research on the new GM ASTRO Safari that was going to come out. Okay. And we did it in Chicago, and we did it in Fort Worth, and I think we went back again to Dallas, tested it. And basically there were two camps. There was the camp that came from cars, station wagons, and sedans that were more acclimated to going to a front-wheel drive type of entry. We had a Chrysler Proxy as a choice that you could make inside of the study. And then we had the ASTRO rear-wheel drive General Motors. We didn't call it ASTRO. I mean, you don't put brands or anything on the vehicles when you test them. And found that that particular type of vehicle was more acclimated to regular van customers and regular pickup customers, right? So you had two camps, those that seemed to gravitate towards a rear-wheel drive and those that seemed to gravitate towards a front-wheel drive. And here we have, God, I'm going to sound like I'm picking on them. Here we have another presentation in front of Howard Carroll. I was in the car. I was in the car when it happened. Okay. And we give him, he says, you know, I'm very nervous about diversions. That's what we call them. Diversions coming from passenger cars. Oh, it seems a whole lot. It seems a lot of risk. Chrysler had not launched yet. Okay? No. They had not launched yet. This was the design staff built, you know, they had suspicions of what Chrysler was doing. And they had built literally, it was pretty close to the Chrysler prototype, Chrysler minivan that we went out and tested. He says, you know, all that stuff that you're showing me, that the volume would come from station wagons and cars, that seems like awful high risk to me. It's a lot easier to understand how big van buyers and big pickup buyers may go to the ASTRO and the Safari. Plus, I want rear-wheel drive because my daughter likes rear-wheel drive. End of meeting. General Motors did the rear-wheel drive. And the rest is history. We got slaughtered.
And did you get slaughtered because of the driving characteristics of rear versus front, or because of the cost difference of needing to go to rear? Attractiveness of the product. We had less diversions from station wagon and sedan buyers. The volume was less, right? So it was all about what's the potential. We ultimately built the plant in Wilmington, Delaware. And the only smart thing that we did is we capped it at, I think, 175,000 units. And Chrysler went on to sell upwards of 300, 350, 375,000 units because the sedan, as the research indicated, the sedan and station wagon owners were more acclimated to that driving configuration. Remember, there was a movement towards front-wheel drive cars at the time, right? Not just from General Motors, from everybody other than the Germans. I always saw that as a negative. So, I mean, I thought that was a movement that the manufacturers went to so they could put the whole running gear, the whole powertrain in as one unit. For example, in that era, you know, let's talk about late 80s, early 90s. I liked Crown Vic, Grand Marquis, Lincoln Town Car rear drive. I didn't like when Lincoln Continental went to front drive. Taurus was okay. And the General Motors cars and Chryslers were going to front drive. I thought that it just felt like cost cutting to me. Was I wrong? Well, cost cutting, the ability to downsize was easier. The leg room was better, although we stuck a console in the middle of it, so we mitigated most of the legroom advantage of the front-wheel drive by putting a huge console between the two seats. You did not, and we did not. We did not. So it was cost, fuel economy, downsizing was easier, etc. You could be an apologist and say that most of the decisions were in a response to the CAFE standards.
And you would be right, but execution is everything. And recognition. Every senior planner in General Motors knew that the Japanese were coming with luxury vehicles. This was not a shock.
This is a common theme throughout today's session that we're having. Japanese were coming with these cars.
The theme is, I mean, one of the guys even traced it from, they started out with motorcycles, then they made these little cars, and then they made a Honda Civic, then they made a Honda Accord, and then they made a Honda Accord bigger. Now, let's just connect all of those dots and see where they're heading. They said that they're going to come, and there was a thing called a Nissan Leopard and a Toyota Crown, I think was the name of the vehicle, that were kind of like upmarket vehicles in Japan. And the conclusion of the study was there's just too much money by taking a standard sedan and making a luxury vehicle out of it, adding $3,000 worth of cost and $10,000 worth of price. There's just too much. There's just too much at stake to ignore this. And the guys that did that original study were correct. I saw it firsthand when I left General Motors and went to consult for Honda. And Honda was a different company than all the others. All the others would give you their product plan and say, tell us what the volumes ought to be. This is circa 1985, Los Angeles, California. Honda would come in and say, here's a blank piece of paper. Tell us what our upmarket vehicles should be. Tell us what the price is, and come back in a month. At the time, I didn't know that they were asking us about Acura. That's what they were asking us about. So we went off and we did our study, drastically undershot the volume. Drastic. Okay, came back, and here's how Honda operated. We gave our presentation, we gave it the rationale, and they said, thank you very much, you can leave now. So we never got to hear what they were thinking. But they gave us a check on the way out. Little different than how the others paid, right? So anyways, it was shortly after that when I realized when I looked back that, by God, those initial people in General Motors who did that initial study that the luxuries are coming from the Japanese, they were right. And now I realize what Honda was asking us to work on. That was going on. I'm sure that was going on at Toyota. Toyota wasn't a customer of mine. I'm sure Nissan was. I'm sure that was going on at Toyota and Nissan at the same time. It's the ignoring of some strategic things and the ability to react to them that I think it was missed. That's all.
And maybe I'm off track here. They knew Acura was coming. Why do you think they named it Acura or gave it a different division in the United States, but not in Japan?
I can only speculate, and that was because they read Alfred Sloan's book, My Years with General Motors, and basically he laid out the strategic plan for all automotive companies to come to the United States, which was try to get a car for every person purpose, and the best thing that you can do is to go up market and get more profit. Pontiac, Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac, rather than trying to make some type of up trim of your mainstream model. That's why I think that they came out with Acura and Infiniti and Lexus. I mean, truth be told, when General Motors had an Astra in Europe and they made a Vectra off of the same, quote, platform, they had the same cost structure in the upmarket car as they had in the Astra. Only the Vectra cost $4,000 more, right? So it's all of the approach to how do we strategize our portfolio to ensure that it's recognized as a different brand with different brand characteristics that we can charge a premium for.
I was just thinking that in Japan, pay attention to American culture. You know, they like Levi's jeans and Marlboro cigarettes and MTV, and they're class conscious for sure.
Gucci, Louis Vuitton, the whole.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to me that they don't put a luxury brand label on for the same reasons in Japan they would do here. I didn't know if you knew.
I speculated.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.